is Proposition F for San Francisco. It's the business tax overhaul. So this is a really complex one. The whole legal text is 125 pages. And so we are probably not going to get into the level of detail and clarity that we want at the end of tonight, but we will at least introduce it. So this is a big overhaul. It does a lot of little things. And let's go over slides real quick. So the way it is now, the city collects taxes from San Francisco businesses with all these taxes and fees. Payroll expense tax, gross receipts tax, which is, as mentioned tonight, it's simply your total revenue. That's what gross receipts mean. Administrative office tax, annual business registration fee, and there are these other taxes here that are affected by this proposition. What will it do? So like I said, it does pretty much 7 other things or 7 different things. And we will try to just go over them one by one. It reduces this annual business registration fee for businesses that are smaller than 1 million in gross revenue. It increases the small business exemption ceiling to 2 million. So if you are smaller than 2 million in gross receipts, you will qualify for a small business exemption. But if you do qualify for that, you will have to pay a greater annual fee. Third thing it does is it modifies gross receipts tax rates. It repeals the payroll tax completely. It increases the gross receipts tax if the homelessness tax is struck down in the courts. So items 5 and 6 depend on court action. So we have 2 different taxes that were passed that are currently being challenged in the courts. One of them is the homelessness one, which I believe is Prop C, which I also believe is good to go. I think there was a recent news about that, a recent ruling about that. The other tax is the child care and early education tax. That is a tax on commercial rents. And that one is, I don't know where that one is. Last I heard, is still being, sued in court. So what these 2 lines do in this proposition is, if those taxes were found to be, unconstitutional or illegal and not able to be collected by the city, it will increase taxes elsewhere to kind of make up that difference and to continue funding those efforts. One of them being homelessness and the other being early education and childcare. And then number 7, I didn't finish this. It literally just says make other changes to the tax code, which doesn't help at all. And so this does a lot of different things, and you probably won't be satisfied or super confident in how you're voting unless you dive into the exact scenarios that you're looking for. For instance, you would have to see, how many businesses are of a certain size, and are we expecting their taxes and fees to decrease or increase? We don't really have that level of detail for you tonight, but as a general picture, that this is pretty much what it does. Generally, the overview is that the city expects to increase tax revenue by $97 million annually. And I would say that most of the supporters for this tax are the early childhood and child care groups, because they were expecting an increase in funding from the city before that source of revenue was challenged in the courts. And so if this is passed, they will receive funding, either way, that type of deal. So yeah, I'll let my teammates continue the presentation.
Andy, do you want to take in favor or opposed?
There's honestly a lot of stuff that's like very conflicting without numbers to really show you why it would be a good idea. So I am up to you, I guess.
Okay. Well, we'll just, I took all of these from the voter's guide, so we'll just like briefly skim over it. I'll do arguments in favor. So the first argument is, well, several arguments is it'll help jumpstart our economy, create a fair business tax system, and provide new revenue for the critical city services we need to recover from this pandemic by unlocking over $700 million, which is currently not being used for anything, even though voters have already approved it for early care and education, homelessness, and essential city services. Also, this proposition eliminates the payroll tax. So transitions to a more equitable business tax system. Argument number 2, which I kind of already mentioned in argument 1, is that it's going to help stimulate the economy by encouraging businesses to hire again because they have more money because they don't need to pay the payroll tax. And then this slide shows everyone who is in favor, including the mayor, all the supervisors, Wame School, SF Labor Council.
Wait, the Libertarian Party is against it?
Yes,
That's
the
weird.
Libertarian Party and this guy named David Pipple is against it.
Don't libertarians like tax reductions? That's weird.
Well, at first they said they were hopeful because they saw the business tax overhaul measure, but I'll let Andy get into that because it's in one of our argument against slides.
Okay. These are the arguments against. We don't know how many businesses of what caliber, or when I say caliber, I mean like revenue size is in SF. So if it looks like we'll be getting a lot of money through the permit price increase, the business permit price increase, but it's hard to say without a side-by-side comparison. And the only other person that really there's only one person that's disagrees with this, and it's that David Pipple guy. Another thing that is against Prop F is, I guess it's we have a huge fintech and tech industry here, and I think if we get rid of payroll taxes, we lose out on a huge chunk of money. I mean, if you think about it, Salesforce has not five of the tallest, but like a good amount of tallest buildings in SF belong to Salesforce. And if we get rid of the payroll tax, we lose out on a huge amount of money. And you multiply that by the entire FIDI, it's a good chunk of money.
I have a quick clarifying question. What is a payroll tax?
I guess it's like it's a tax on employees that you have.
Is it based on like the number of employees that you have? So it's like the more you have, the more you'll be taxed. The less you have, the less you'll be taxed.
That's the way
Calculated
I understand it.
as a percentage of the salaries that employers pay their staff.
Oh,
Payroll taxes generally fall into 2 categories: deductions from an employee's wages and taxes paid by the employer based on the employee's wages.
Yeah, definitely sounds like the more employees you have, the more salary that you pay, the higher you pay in payroll tax.
Yeah, but then the employees also pay part of their salary. So it's not just the businesses that pay, but yeah. Gross receipts would be just the business pays.
Right, but this prop will also get rid of payroll tax, like period.
Which is interesting because some examples of payroll taxes include your Social Security, Medicare, federal unemployment.
Yeah, so like you're still going to have to pay payroll taxes, but only to the federal or state government. And then there won't be local payroll taxes on top of that. But yeah. I don't know. Sorry, Andy. I don't know if you wanted to continue. I don't yeah. I feel like I'm kind of stepping on things here.
No, you're good. No worries.
You want to close it out, Andy, or?
No, you can go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I don't know really what to say about the against proposition.
Yeah, I have things
Yeah.
to say about these against arguments that I'm reading here.
Yeah, I was just like,
I
yeah,
feel
so
like
this
they're
is a tax increase. I'll just finish it out. It's expected to increase tax revenues. So that's probably why the Libertarian Party opposes it, because it does increase the amount the state is getting, or the city, excuse me. It also allows an immediate spending of 1.5 billion that the courts have impounded that are currently being challenged, I think. So yeah, we should not take money away from our hardworking residents and businesses, especially when they are struggling.
Ooh, yeah, I disagree. Because if you're reducing payroll taxes by getting rid of local payroll taxes, then you're putting more money into the pockets of employees, right? And you're just taking more money out of the businesses. So it seems like the Libertarian Party wants to protect the businesses more than the workers.
Mm.
Also, I think argument number 2, I believe, said something about it wanted it to be 2 separate things. Like there was the tax increase and then there was like a charter amendment, right?
Yeah.
So the charter amendment, I don't know, actually what I can do here is put a link in the chat to this other sort of this nonprofit that puts out certain recommendations and stuff. And their background on this whole thing is very, very interesting, because basically what happened was there was a decision that voters approved back in 2012, right? Or did somebody already go into this?
I don't think so.
So basically, it was agreed that we would want to transition local taxes away from payroll taxes and into businesses' gross revenues, or gross receipt taxes. And we were transitioning things slowly so that it wasn't a shock to the system. But then COVID-19 happened, and that's why we have Prop F. Prop F is to just sort of seal the deal and to finally finish the transition. And the reason why we want to transition is because payroll taxes affect employees, and it sort of, I don't know, I think it kind of, it affects employees, while gross receipts only affects businesses. And it's also a progressive system. So if you have a really big business like Salesforce, then they're going to be taxed more than, or they're going to be taxed more by this ballot initiative. Yeah.
Sounds good to me, man.
Yeah, because I don't think they're going to be like pulling up stakes anytime soon, because they just built that huge building.
Right.
I mean, like, yeah, I mean, the argument against taxes writ large is always like, if you raise taxes, then the businesses are going to flee. But they're already pretty invested in this city. So it's like, what? Also, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Also, I just looked up. So okay, so this proposition increases, well, the government gets $97 million, and that's 0.708% of the city's budget. If anyone wanted to think about it in terms of percentage wise.
Yeah, that's like nothing, huh?
Yeah. It also changes ballot measures from like tax ballot measures used to require like a 60% approval or something. 60% of voters would need to approve it or something like that. But now this ballot measure changes it, so it's only a simple majority.
What? I did not see that at all. Damn.
I think that's what it does. And I think that's one of the arguments against by that one guy.
So I was just doing research on Dave Pipel, and it looks like he's been against a lot of like different props in San Francisco, and like he has a lot of there are a lot of complaints against him as well. And so it's very interesting that this one guy is trying to like stop this prop.
Yeah, everybody else seems to be on board.
So I'm just looking at some random website right now, and it says that He's on the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force member David Papel. A number of complaints against this person have been filed for documenting probable violations of both statement of incompatible activities applicable. And there's also violations of state and local regulations.
What?
Generally, the proposition is being kind of marketed as a little tax relief for the small businesses and little guys, and being a little more aggressive for the bigger corporations. And I'm looking at the numbers from the website that Will shared. For example, the businesses that only operate a administrative office in the city currently pay 1.4% payroll tax instead of a gross receipt tax. But this measure would increase that tax slightly to 1.47 in 2020, 1.54 in 2023, and 1.61 thereafter.
Yeah,
So
that sounds good to
there's
me.
that. Yeah,
I want to pay less in payroll tax.
same.
I'm sure James also wants to pay less in payroll tax.
Sorry.
It's all good. But as I was saying about like the charter amendment, the reason why that's in there is because the Supreme Court implied that it would be illegal for
Oh, yeah.
a city to make it like harder to pass a tax sort of local measure proposition on anything more than majority. They didn't, like, the Supreme Court didn't force us to do this, but we're just sort of doing it proactively, is my estimate as to why it's in this proposition, is to just sort of get out ahead of, so that the Supreme Court doesn't come back later with another decision that just sort of like forces it on us.
So it makes it so that it changes the charter that to say that all future tax increases only require a simple majority. Is that what it does?
I think so. Any future tax changes that go before the voters only require a simple majority.
Wow, that's a
That's
that's a
kind of
big
a
deal that I
game
didn't
changer.
hear anything about. I'm surprised the Libertarian Party doesn't make a fuss about that. But yeah, that's a big deal to consider too.
I think it would also make it easier to lower taxes too. So I don't know why they would be
True.
opposed to that. But yeah, I don't know. And I feel like it's just kind of the culmination of a lot of things that have already been sort of in play for a while now. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Personally, I feel like it's a slam dunk, but if anybody else feels differently.
Sorry, this might be a dumb question, but what does the Libertarian Party stand for? Or like, what do they believe in?
They're like anti-government, right?
Yeah, no big
Yeah.
government. My
Yeah,
boss
they're like
is a
Ron Swanson.
libertarian.
Ron Swanson Party.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
thing, man.
My boss is a libertarian. That's all I know.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
they're
What
against taxes, against regulation,
Against
therefore
regulation.
freedom.
Oh, but it makes it seem like libertarian is like for company more than like against government to me.
Yeah, I don't know. That's usually how it comes out in the wash.
Right? Yeah.
From where I'm sitting, it's usually like they argue it's in favor of freedom, but it does seem to be sort of like, well, freedom to do what? Freedom to allow corporations to do what they want. You know, I don't know. Seems like a misnomer. Freedom.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, so generally this will raise business taxes in the future. People, you know, people who are
yeah.
against will be against businesses paying more taxes. They'll say that will you know, depress the economy. That will make it harder for businesses to hire people, and it'll be bad for the economy. Does anyone want to make a case for that side of the argument? Or everyone believes that, you know, it's fair for businesses to pay a little more?
I think there's an argument to be made that it actually will increase the amount of jobs that are created because you're lowering payroll taxes. So it becomes less expensive to hire somebody.
Yeah, that's what the
Yeah, becomes less expensive for the employee, less expensive for the company. So they can hire somebody and then less of the money that they're giving to them will be taken away.
I
But
have
yeah.
a question. Does this say it's for all businesses or like certain businesses that make over a certain amount of revenue?
for like larger businesses, right?
Yeah,
I
I think
think
what
so.
Andy was mentioning was like he was telling you about caliber, and what it was something about like if you make more than $1 million in revenue, I think.
I think it was $2 million.
Sure.
Yeah, well, it's a technical question. I gotta freaking dig into it. But yeah, I mean, I feel pretty confident with what I'm voting here. Is anyone on the edge or need some like clarifying things that would push them over?
Yeah,
One
who
way or
wants to be
the other?
pushed?
So just to
I mean-
clarify, because I
Uh-huh.
like to ask clarifying questions. So if this proposition passes, does that mean I pay less payroll taxes, which means I
Yes.
get more money to myself?
Yes. Well, how much? Well, how big is the company that you work for right now? Like, how big are
They
they?
still consider themselves startup, but I feel like
Oh.
they're like medium sized.
Hmm.
I guess it also depends on because there's an increase in gross receipt tax. So if they make sales or anything, then there's that too. They get taxed more for that.
But yeah, I think it will lower your payroll taxes, so you won't have to pay as much to the city for payroll taxes.
Okay.
Let me pull up try to find my pay stub and see how much.
Does
I
anyone know what an administrative office tax is? Because apparently there's an increase in that. So I'm really curious what that is.
Yeah, apparently there's like some companies only have administrative offices and they don't have, I guess, other operations in the city. And they don't have to pay gross receipts tax currently, but they do have to pay a administrative office tax.
Oh, okay, that's just to catch them.
Right. That's sort of
Okay.
just even like yeah, that makes sense.
Even Steven, yeah.
Right,
okay,
right.
That makes sense. Cool.
Oh, I have the full text of the ballot, and it's 125.
I know.
pages. Oh my God, Steven,
Yeah, it's
read
pretty
that and like
extensive.
shorten it for us.
I tried. A lot of it is copy pasting the specific funds that the controller has to like allot money into, and a lot of it is the so each fund says like how it will be funded, and the reason why there's a big chunk is because it pretty much has to copy and paste every single fund and then insert into every single fund's language saying that the controller cannot count the extra money that it gets from this specific tax, and it can't like earmark it towards the municipal fund, the parks and rec fund, whatever fund. So to sum up like maybe 40 pages of that for you, it's taking the increased revenue from these tax increases, and I would say it's allowing the city to be more flexible with it instead of saying that it has to be spent, it has to be divided into the park and rec fund or the whatever other funds that it has. And then it outlines a lot of the industries that have different tax rates, and William's site does really good where it kind of here, I'll just share my screen for a second.
Yeah, SPUR is a recommended resource in terms of local proposition measures. I think they do good work generally. They're a nonprofit and they have really fun and accessible graphics generally. Yeah.
Yeah, so you see the industry and then the expected changes. So in the wholesale trade, your gross receipts tax will vary based on the size of your business, right? Based on your gross receipts to a max of this much in that year. And so across the board, we see increases because we are repealing the payroll tax. And so in your mind, you're thinking, okay, does this generally give the city a net benefit or a net decrease? And according to the controller, we're expecting a net increase of 97 million per year in tax revenue. So there's that. And, you know, obviously, if you don't trust these numbers at all, you would dive deep into the legal text, which is available online, and it's in those 125 pages somewhere.
What's going on with all that money that's like held up because of the lawsuit? What's going on with that money?
I mean, last I heard about the homelessness one was the Prop C one. I heard it was good to go. The ruling was that it was legal and the city can start using those funds.
Oh, really?
So
Oh,
I
okay.
don't expect that extra tax to come about. Because if you guys remember that's also part of what this tax does. It'll increase taxes if the case were that the courts ruled that the money that the city was collecting on a previous tax was not legal. So I don't know about the childcare one, but last I heard about the homelessness one was that it's good. So there's that. And that's a whole thing to uncover because, if the previous tax was found to be not legal for some reason, why do we think raising some tax here would be good if that wasn't good? It was for the same purpose. So I don't know the answer to that. But it's just another thing that this thing does. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not like a super confident that I understand the whole thing, which kind of sucks. I got to do a lot more research.
Out of curiosity, which way are people leaning?
I'm leaning 4.
Likewise, I'm leaning 4.
I'm still very confused.
What are you confused about?
I mean, just because like there's a lot of like I understand what they're trying to do, but then because there's like they're taking out one thing, but they're also like adding another thing. And so I'm trying to like figure out like how those moving pieces work. I mean, even though I'm confused, I think I'm a 4, but I'm still very confused on those moving parts.
I'm not sure how to summarize. Well, it's like, the local government right now makes a certain amount of money from the taxes that you pay on your paycheck, right? When you receive a paycheck, you don't receive all of it.
Mhm.
Some of it is withheld by your employer so that they can give that money to the government
Mhm.
in their half of the payroll tax. And then they withhold another portion of it to pay on behalf of you, the recipient of that paycheck.
Mhm.
So those two parts combined is your payroll tax.
Mhm.
And you pay payroll taxes to definitely the federal government. I don't know about the state government. And then the local government, that's what we're talking about here. The payroll taxes that you pay to San Francisco.
Mhm.
And then with this measure, it would try to transition. It would get rid of these payroll taxes, but then, oh no, San Francisco's losing out on a lot of money. Where are we going to make up that money? How about we tax all these huge businesses that have been getting substantial tax breaks in the past and whatnot? Why don't we tax them instead on their revenue?
Mhm.
Not necessarily on their existence, but like if they make a lot of profit, then we see some of that profit in terms of tax money.
Okay.
So we, the people.
Okay. Thank you for your explanation. I think that definitely makes it more clear than the 120 something pages. And with your explanation, I think I'm a 4 because like you mentioned, a lot of big businesses have been getting tax breaks. And so it's definitely like their fair share to be taxed for that revenue.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much, but I definitely recall some sort of tax break on businesses that were on Market Street, like the Market Street corridor. There was a lot of stuff going on when the last mayor was in office, the guy who died of a heart attack. Like he supported a lot of sort of like centrist.
He did. Yeah, I remember it was
stuff.
like when he was the mayor, like a lot of the FIDI got taken over by like the tech industry, and so then that's when like the city really started changing because they got all those tax breaks.
Yeah, they were incentivized to move in, and to the rationale being if we give you this tax break, you come here and then you provide these jobs, and that spurs the local economy in a lot of different ways. And
This
so
passes, does it incentivize them to leave? And then part 2 to my question, if we no longer pay payroll taxes, do we still have to do taxes at the end of the year?
Yes.
Yeah, you still have to do taxes at the end of the year to pay other taxes for the state. Other
We're
taxes
not
for the federal
Trump,
government.
okay?
I'm looking at my pay stub and I don't see any explicit deduction for city payroll.
Yeah, I was looking at my pay stubs too, and I didn't see anything specific for the city as well. Unless I don't understand how to read my pay stub.
Oh, wait, let me take a look at my pay stub. Maybe it's there.
Yeah, that's
Maybe
weird.
it's all lumped together. I don't know.
Carwell, you're a legal worker, dude. But that's good. Good question. Yeah. Do we think businesses will leave if they see their taxes raise up that amount that we're looking at?
I don't know. It's like I said before, I don't think they're going to leave. I think Salesforce, they just plopped down that huge building.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what Pac Bell Park has changed names like 10 billion different times.
It
There's a
belongs
certain,
to T-Mobile now.
it's
Oh,
going to
yeah.
be
Oh,
T-Mobile Park.
It's already T-Mobile Park.
What? See, it's like,
It went from AT&T to Oracle to T-Mobile.
What?
yeah, see, I feel like there's a lot of cachet in just being in the city and having your name on things in the city. So a lot of
But-
big companies will not move out just because of that. I don't
Isn't the
think so.
cachet the big companies though? Like, aren't they the draw to the city?
Mm, I still don't think they're just going to move out just on a very small 1 point something increase in gross receipts.
I'm really curious what all the taxes that they have to pay. So what, property tax, commercial rents, these taxes, these are all like less than 1 percentage point, which is like, I don't know, seems really low. The gross receipts tax I'm talking about, the proposed ones.
Yeah, they're pretty low. I feel like they're pretty low, but then again, I'm not a business major. I don't know. I don't know the margins.
Me neither. Yeah.
The margins. All I know is profit is theft.
Oh, that's a little strong.
Ugh. And also basketballs.
Hmm.
I don't see local.
There
stuff on-
might be some small section of businesses that move to like literally like South City or something that they might consider it if they're
But they
between
already do that though. That's
the
the
2
thing.
mil and the whatever, 2 mil, maybe 5 mil range. So
Does anybody know about Brisbane?
dude,
Do you guys know where Brisbane is?
hell yeah. I went to a restaurant there and I saw the mayor. Their mayor's only like 23.
What? Yeah, because Brisbane is not a real place. It's a fake. It's like a tiny little municipality
Dude, it's
that's
closer
like
to me
right
than
below
the
San
city.
Francisco. And a lot of places that like were in the city originally, like if they want to do a tax dodge,
Uh-huh.
then they move their operations down to Brisbane. So it's like, I don't think there's going to be anything that we can do to like incentivize them to move back. Like if they're going to want to do that measure, that's sort of skeevy stuff, then yeah, they're going to do it anyway.
No, yeah, I agree because it's definitely intention. Like if they have that intention of like wanting to skip out on taxes, then of course you're gonna find any like reason excuse to move. But if they don't have that like thought of wanting to move, I don't think they'll leave.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Literally most companies, they should, right? That's like, if you're a shareholder in that company, you would be angry at them for not considering ways to save money on their operating costs. So, I don't say people are evil or whatever. That's just the nature of the game. So anybody want to close this out? Is anyone still confused? Have any questions about this one? Does anyone disagree with the general notion that this will probably just increase business taxes on large companies?
I think they can afford it.
Or proposition too much still, honestly.
It exempts small businesses, right?
It exempts small businesses from a certain tax.
Yeah, tax ceiling, right? But I just don't. What does this go to? Like, where do the taxes go to? Like, is it general funds again?
General fund, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
how much general funds do we need to say we have enough? I mean, we're not even using. Are we using most of it?
Well,
Yeah.
if you ask me,
The city's in a
Yeah.
huge deficit right now.
that's a good question. James is asking how much is enough for the city to get, right? Or is the city just wants to keep getting a lot more revenue and just spending money?
Do you just give it to your workers then, the government workers that work there? I'm not trying to say like they will do it, but like, what if that's the thing? Is it's a small tax? It's like 0.1%, right? 0.02%. Like that's a small number in hindsight.
Yeah,
but the money goes that money goes to pay for big projects that benefit people, like the central subway system that's been being worked on for like a long time. Do you guys know about that project? I was reading up on it. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it's
Fascinating.
supposed to connect me to downtown.
Yeah.
It's taken
And-
at least like 10 years. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. It like tripled in budget. Like it's like triple the cost. And it's like, oh boy. And that always happens with these big projects. But I mean, that's what it's paying for. Stuff like that is needed, because originally we used to have the Embarcadero Highway or whatever. And then there was that earthquake, and then all those highways like collapsed, and they had to tear them down because they were unsafe.
Mhm.
And then there were local people who were like, hey man, we still need, like, we can't just get to places on the buses. Like the buses are too slow, too crowded. So they were like, okay, we'll do this. We'll extend the subway up there. And that's paid for partially with local money. Partially, I think there was some stimulus money that we got way back in the day.
I'm leaning towards a yes on this one because it's like, given the choice, do I want my payroll to be taxed or do I want the business to be taxed? It's like my paycheck or their revenue.
Once you be taxed either way, they'll just push the cost on you. Then they'll reduce your payroll.
I don't think they can reduce my salary.
Oh, you was well. They would cut people off then if it reduces the profit. That's what most companies do. Either you say goodbye to your entire salary, or you're lucky to keep it.
Yeah. I really like James' question. We're raising these taxes incrementally. When is it going to be enough for the city, right? And I think there's different ways to answer that, and that's a collective answer, right? I would think Bowden would answer that question, right? What will be enough for the city, right? Well, probably when there aren't kids that are, finding it difficult to focus in class because whatever, they can't eat or whatever, they have to travel 3 hours home, right?
Yeah, Bowden. They can't eat.
Yeah, in that case,
What's up with that, Bowden? Huh?
we still have that problem. We're not
Answer that.
either spending enough or we're not spending it smartly enough to solve that problem. And if you look at the city, like, hey, when are you gonna have enough to deal with your problems? Or when we see all these crazy people out in the streets like killing each other over like heroin or whatever, probably when the city solves that problem, well, then we're good. We don't have to pay more taxes and try to solve these public problems.
Yeah, Bowden.
Or you can say it's not the city's job, and just let the hobo wars continue, and we'll just try to step around them.